Hello everyone, it's Luke, and in this video I'm going to show you how to install crown molding. When this house was originally built, the builders added crown molding to our living room space, and it looks great, but they didn't add it to the entire rest of the house. I recently added crown molding to our home office, and it looks a lot better as a result. In this video I'm going to be adding it to our dining room space, this hallway, as well as our first floor guest room. Crown molding comes in a variety of materials. I'm going to be using wood molding for this installation. And installing crown molding can be a little bit tricky for a variety of reasons. One, you're installing it at an angle. You have both outside as well as inside angles, which will be applicable in the corner over there. I actually have separate templates, an outside and inside one, to make sure that I get the cuts correct, and also to make sure that the different pieces meet up properly at the corners. And when you're cutting crown molding, we'll get into this in a bit, that's another tricky thing. You actually need to invert the molding in the miter saw to get the cut correct. I got this molding at Lowe's. It comes in 12 and 8-foot sections, and I'm going to show you how to install this now, hopefully without making too many miscuts along the way. So the first thing I want to do here is measure the length of this wall section. Which is coming out to 99.5 inches. Nice odd number to be dealing with there. And the two things I want to keep in mind is I have one outside edge here, and then I'll have an inside edge in that corner. So I want to keep that in mind when I'm at the miter saw. One of the things I did when I was cutting the crown molding for the home office was to mark where the crown molding should sit on the miter saw. I'm using a slightly wider molding for the dining room area so it matches the living room. So I'm going to line this up first, and then I'm going to mark my miter saw where each of these pieces should land so that they're all cut consistently. I'm also going to do this for the different angles for the inside and outside cuts, which are 45. So I'm going to turn the saw to the side, line this up again. Mark my 45. I'm going to do that in each direction. Now each of my cuts should match identically. So my first cut is a right inside cut. So I've got my template upside down here, and I want to make a 45-degree angle cut going this way. So first thing I'm going to do is put on some safety glasses, some earplugs as well. I'm going to line up my wood here along the miter edge. Next up, I got to measure out 99.5 inches. This cut is going to be an outside left cut, so as it happens, I want to go in the exact same direction. Another thing I want to do after cutting off that last piece of molding is use the scrap piece to cut out my template for my corners. So I've already got the right side of my inside corner cut. Now I'm going to do the left side. Now I'm going to mark these out so I know what they are. This is my inside my left and my right. This is the outside. All right, moment of truth here to see whether this fits properly. That feels like a good fit right there. First thing I'm going to do is mark where this lines up on here. So we have that as a reference for the future. I'm marking the walls and the ceiling where I'm going to put a bead of caulking between the crown molding and the walls so it has a better seal overall. I also want to make sure that the corner pieces match here. So I'm going to put these into place. And that's why we have these big erasers, so we can remove all these other lines that weren't where they were supposed to be. Next thing I'm going to do is going to add a bead of caulking along the ceiling and the wall here that I'm going to push the crown molding up against, so we get a good seal in the future. Roll this into its final position. So I've now got that first piece of crown molding up on the wall here. You can see how the caulking, putting that behind the molding, helped it adhere better to the wall and ceiling, even before I put in the brad nails. Next I'm going to start putting in the rest of the molding pieces. For this next cut, I've got two inside corners that I'm going to be working with. So I'm going to be using this as my template for the cuts. And let's see how long this piece is going to need to be. We've got, looks like 47 inches. So cut some molding. So I'm now ready to cut the second piece of molding, and one thing I want to point out is I mentioned before you need to invert the molding when you're cutting. Reason being, you're treating the table of the saw as the ceiling and the sliding fence part as your wall. To look at it quite literally, when you're facing the wall, you're looking at it like this. Otherwise, if you don't do this, otherwise your cuts are going to be at the wrong angle. So this next piece, I have 47 inches. And I want to remember that I've got two inside cuts. I've already got a right cut on that side. So I want the saw going this direction at 45. Looks like we're a little bit long on this end, but better to be too long than too short. I'm gonna trim this down a little bit. Recut this piece. Let's see how this fits. This is looking better, but it looks like we have an uneven ceiling. Looks like I have some tinkering to do. Gonna play around with this, and I'm also gonna cut the next piece so that I can make sure this fits properly. And it's an inside corner and an outside corner. Left inside, I'm gonna be cutting it at this angle. And the right outside is actually going to be the same angle, but on the other side. I gotta measure in between the two. And I'm going to set up for my right outside cut. Okay, a moment of truth. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to nail the ends in and work my way to the middle. Okay, in. Don't let go. So that last section proved to be a little bit more challenging than expected, but with an assist from my wife, I got the job done here. This next cut is going to be a left outside cut, and looks like we may need to do some slightly different angle here. This wall doesn't seem to be a direct 45-degree angle, or 90-degree angle, excuse me. So, got to figure that one out. So this next angle is not 45 degrees. I'm not entirely sure what the angle is. What I'm going to do is mark out what the actual cut should be, just so I have that as a record on the molding. And then I'm going to cut little sections of the molding out at different degrees. I'm going to bring them back and forth to the wall and see if I can't get a matching fit. So this first one's a 50-degree cut instead of the 45. And we'll see if this proves effective or not. So it's not 50 degrees, but that's a lot closer to where we want to be than where we were. So I'm going to keep on trimming down the angle until we get this right, and then I'll do the final cut. And this is 48 degrees, and we have a pretty darn close match here. I'm going to get back to drawing the lines on the ceiling and the walls where I want to add the caulking. So I've now finished installing the crown molding everywhere with the exception of two areas. One is the wall on my left, which is 13.5 feet, and the other area is the wall behind me, which is 19.5 feet. Both of those sections are longer than the 12-foot molding pieces they sell, so I need to merge two pieces together, a 12-foot and an 8-foot, so they cover these walls properly. I'm going to show you how I accomplish that now. There's effectively two different ways you can have your crown molding merged together. One is just to have the pieces butt to butt like this. The reason why you don't necessarily want this is if your house is shifting because of the weather, it's likely to pull apart and you'll notice the seam more easily. You obviously don't want that to happen during those times of year. A more effective way is to use an angle. This is a 45-degree angle, and this looks a little bit more seamless. So this is what we're going to go for, at least what I'm going to go for our 12 and 8-foot sections. In working with this seam, I want the seam to be in the least noticeable place along the wall, which is going to be up above the doorway to our mudroom. So I'm going to be starting out with the 12-foot section first, and instead of cutting the molding at this angle like I've been doing with the ceiling here and the wall here, this piece I'm just going to cut it flat against the fence of the miter saw. As you can see here, I now have the first piece, the 12-foot piece of crown molding put up. I'm now going to cut down that second section of the 8-foot, I don't even need that much, to fill in the gap to the corner here. Got 15.5 inches here. The next section I'm cutting is my 8-foot section, and I'm going to leave the saw the exact same way that it was and make this cut. So I've got my angled cut here for where I want to merge the two pieces of molding. This is going to be a left inside cut. So I'm going to flip this piece upside down. I've got 15.5 inches to mark out. It's right about there. A good fit there. That also looks really good. So I'm on to the final piece of molding in the dining room space. I'm gonna do similar work to what I did on this other side. I'm gonna do the 12-foot section first, and then the 8-foot section on this side. The ceiling is this wall is gonna be challenging because the ceiling in this corner is bowed. So it's gonna be a bit tricky to get the pieces to line up properly, but make the best of it. So I've now finished putting up all the crown molding, including these last two sections. I wasn't able to video the last part because the molding actually split while I was putting it up, and I had to swap it out with another piece of molding that I had. Lesson learned, always have extra molding or whatever it is, have extra materials with you so you can compensate if something does break in the process. But anyway, everything's up now. The next step is going to be to caulk everything, cover up the brad nails with some spackle, sand everything, and then paint it. So I'm about to put in a last corner piece of the molding up above, and just wanted you to know that I've been using the Alex Plus 40-year caulking for this project. This stuff works really well. I love it. If you've never used a caulking gun before, two things I wanted to point out are you used to have to use a razor blade or some kind of an edge to take off the top of the caulking tip. There's this little hole in the side. All you have to do is plug it in here, snip it, and the whole thing pops off. Makes it much easier. Also, if you've had a caulking tube that you haven't used in a long time, there's this little pointy thing that comes attached to the ending of it. You can use this to get through the dried out caulking, then be able to push it out with the caulking gun so you can get to the fresher stuff. So I'm going to use this now to put up that last piece. So what I'm going to do with the caulking is I'm going to do a little bit of the bead along here. You don't need a whole lot, just enough to get a finger's worth and be able to push in any cracks that there are, and otherwise just have a smooth line, and you're just going to repeatedly go over this until you have a nice smooth edge. Ultimately ends up looking totally seamless. So now finished installing the crown molding. After giving them a light sanding and washing down with a wet paper towel, I applied 2 coats of the Valspar Signature semi-gloss paint, which matches the trim and the rest of the house. This installation project took about a week to complete with some interruptions. Although I was able to do the installation by myself for the most part, I really recommend doing a similar installation with another person. You're working up on ladders, and it really helps to have another set of hands to help balance the molding pieces as you're doing the installation. If you're new to this channel, be sure to check out my other DIY installation videos, including this one about the custom bookcase that I built for our home office. I'm also offering a new DIY tool guide for free. You can find out more information about that in the description below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.